Ulterior, and we're here with Computer Music, giving you a tutorial of our Obsession remix that we did for Metalheadz 2 years ago. We're going to be taking you through the stages of the drums, the bass, and the sort of our general approach of the remix.
Okay, so Future Cut had all the samples. Actually, they gave us quite a few samples, vocals, effects, drums, and all bits and bobs. Some of them were better than others, so I could play you a few. Like, where's a good one?
A change so strange, but how does it do this?
So we got all these, got them into Logic, started to kind of piece together the arrangement as Future Cut did it, and then started to rewrite it, wasn't it, basically, like part by part. So we rewrote all the drums, rewrote all the pads, and then just basically used the original vocal.
Yeah, it was all about sort of formulating the structure of the original track first, to sort of get the general feel for it, and then we just sort of started to rewrite the drums first, because we always start with the drum break first. Whenever we write a project, it's the best place to start, because you get them sounding nice and loud to start with, and you bring everything up to meet it. So that's probably a good place to start, walking through the drums.
Well, if you look at the arrangement here as well, this is kind of how we always do it. It's quite a big project, this one, but it starts off, this whole section at the top here is like the main drums, and then here is just different sort of shouts and percussion parts, other bongos and crashes and stuff like that, and then you've got the actual sub bass. These are the mids, so the re-spaces down here. This is all the pads, this kind of reverb hits and effects here, other vocal effects, and then just anything else at the bottom. So if we go up to the top here, this is the main section of drums. Pretty much 90% of the time we put all of our drums as single hits into the EXS24 in Logic. So we don't tend to use audio that much. I know a lot of people do put everything in sections of audio, but we like to put it in the EXS24, and then the benefit of that is we can have maybe 30 kicks kind of mapped out over the keyboard, and then we can just flick through on a MIDI channel. If we bring up the piano roll here, you can see here's the kick here, and there's, well, in this case it's just one kick, but sometimes there's all sorts of different kicks that you can have the loop playing and flick through and then choose the best kick for that particular break.
It's really handy for sort of when you're sculpting your drum kit, for sort of transient shaping. That kick might be wrong, and sort of find a tighter kick.
Exactly.
It's better in the workflow.
So this is the break as it is. So that's just broke down simply as just one kick there. There's a few different layered snares on this one, so there's like that was done in Superior Drummer actually, and then bounced down. But we'll touch on that later. I'll open up the old project and show you the Superior Drummer. Big reverby snare. Another one. And then there's the Lati break here. Some shuffles. And you can see on each one of these we like to process it harder per channel rather than smash it on a bus. So they've all got a bit of compression, some alloy transient shapers, limiters on each hit as well. It's not how we always do it, but that's just how it kind of came out in this project. Okay, so on the main snare, if we bring up the alloy, just a bit of a bump there at 200 Hertz, transient, higher transient on the attack, so just gives it a little bit more snap. And then the dynamics is on actually, but as you can see there's no ticks in the boxes here, so even though the dynamics is on, there is actually no dynamics. So this one is just essentially a little bit more attack on the transient shaper and a little bump on the 200 Hertz for a bit more punch. I mean, on this break it was very like kind of vibey, just keep putting in layers and taking away layers and try and get it sounding big and rough, just like the original Future Cut tune was kind of like really raw. We didn't want a kind of minimal break, did we?
No, and if it sort of over process it and produce it like you would do a normal sort of drum and bass break these days, you take by cleaning it up too much and taking away out all the imperfections, you kind of lose the nostalgia of the track, and we really wanted to hold on to that in this remix.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Also, I just noticed on these drums here, a lot of them go to this bus 12. So the bus 12 will be the drum bus, and on the drum bus there, another alloy, a little EQ taking off some of the top, and just a limiter, UAD precision limiter we used on this one. So just at 0 dB there. So it's just catching the peaks, any peaks that go above 0 dB. So on this one, this is the drum bus. So there's a bit more EQ going on here, a bit of low end, and then a little push at the tops there. There's an exciter here. This is probably just from a preset actually, just to load up a preset exciter on here. Some dynamics, just 6 dB, and then on the second dynamics 21, so quite a lot of compression there. And then limiter, almost 3 dB of limiting on there. So the drum bus is pretty pushed actually from the alloy. So that's how it sounds without. Just wanted to give it a bit more body, a bit more depth. So yeah, once we decided on the kind of drum pattern, then we wanted to go in on the edits, didn't we?
Yeah,
Do
there's
lots
sort of separate drum rolls.
So that's we've actually bounced those down here, actually, haven't we? So, for example, this one here. That's it. So as the drums are rolling, it keeps every 8 or 16 switching to these different drum edits.
All the drum breaks are written and edited in XLN's Addictive Drums. We use that a lot. We've used that a lot in our previous productions, sort of like Featherweight, 2098. They're all written with that drum machine because we really like it. It's got a really good acoustic sound, and it sounds nice and live, and it's really easy to program and get a nice bright sounding drum
Well,
kit.
let's show you now. Shall we show you how to do
we'll
it?
walk you through some of that.
Okay, so this is a project. What we normally do is something like with these drum edits, because Addictive Drummer, Superior Drummer, they're all quite RAM intensive, aren't they? You open up and use a lot of memory. So we do a couple of drum edits, bounce it down, then do a new drum edit, bounce it down, new drum edit, just keep going like that, and then you can really save your memory. So this is Addictive Drummer, this is the edit. Okay, so just like we said before, MIDI regions, and then here it is. So do you want to explain a bit about it?
Yeah, so what we do with this, if we come back to the kit, we will program a drum kit here, so that we've got your kicks and your snares and your hi-hats, and it takes a bit of time, but we go through and we check the different hi-hats and the different kicks and the different snares to sort of formulate your own drum kit rather than rinsing the preset banks that it comes with. It's much better to sort of have a bit of an exploration into what's going on, and then you make yourself an original sounding edit. So then we did do this, so if we play it again, so what we did here, we've cut out some low end because the low end's already in the original break, you don't really need it there. It's got some nice compression on it just to sort of tighten it all up and make it sound.
It's got quite a lot of compression on that one there. Yeah, alloy again.
And then more alloy. We used alloy a lot on the drums. Alloy's a really good plug-in for drums. And again, it's just sort of got a nice bit of bass additive, exciter. It's almost got the same. It's actually got the same.
It's probably the copy across from the drum bus.
And
one thing to point out with this Addictive Drummer, it's really good because there's so many kits on it. Starts off down here. If I explain on the piano roll, it will start. Every kit that you choose are all mapped to the same key, so the kicks will always be on the same hits, the snares will always be on the same keys, the hi-hats, the crashes, cymbals. So you can actually, you can just move up like that, and then you can change different drums and different patterns, and it'll still be triggering the same.
I mean, you can do it as an example. Like if you just play that way.
So you can see, you can go through, and then there's actually the effects.
There's some distortion going on inside there, isn't there?
So as you click on each, so for example the kick can have a pitch filter, pitch envelope, volume envelope, EQ, distortion, and that's just for the kick. Then you get the snare, hi-hat, and then you've got different overheads, room, buses, so there's quite a lot of stuff you can do within actual Addictive Drummer.
And it's worth doing it within Addictive Drummer because it just sort of keeps your processing power within your channel strips in Logic down.
For example, there's just the, if I just shorten this loop, you could put on the pitch envelope. So that's the kind of thing we'll do, play around with this kind of stuff. And then if you play it with the rest of them, you can just like endlessly play around with it until it starts to come together. Bounce it, rechange the sounds, bounce it, rechange the sounds, and that's just kind of what we did, wasn't it?
Yeah, and that's how the edits were really done for this tune. But not all of them. Some edits are from original breaks, aren't they? Somewhere later on the line. The main frame of the original had the assembly line break in it, and because we rewrote the whole break, we wanted to still keep that characteristic. So at the beginning here, we've kept the sort of vocal shout from the assembly line.
That one there, isn't it?
Yeah. And then we also added what's this one again?
The funky drummer?
Yeah, the shout from the funky drummer break, which gives it the cool and response. I mean, it plays really well off the bass later on, which we'll show you. Sort of helped us sort of keep the characteristic of the original tune, but just sort of put our own little twist on it, really.
Okay, so there's the main kind of future cut break pattern going through most of the tune, just here. And then we switched it up a bit, 8 bar little break here, and then we switched up the drum pattern for a more straight 2-step. Basically the same drums, isn't it? Just with a different pattern and then some different percussion underneath it.
It's nice bright cymbals to cut through the mix on this bit.
So that old break there, that's just that's the new break that comes in over the top of the old stuff. And it just gives it that, because without that, just needed that.
Yeah.
Because this pattern over here is a lot more hectic and fuller. It needed just an extra little layer on this, and that's just what we've layered in there. And then some rides over the top. So the rides cut out all the bottom end and some of the harsh top end there. In the XS24, just pitched it up, 5 semitones there, long release.
A little bit of attack.
Because we want to sort of bleed into each other. If we put it back down and take the release down, we wanted to get rid of the click at the start.
So on the outro of the tune, this is the only break that we used from Future Cuts samples that they gave us. It's just the straight funky drummer.
Yeah, just stuck that in at the end.
And that's pretty much the drums of the tune. It's an overall view of the drums of the tune anyway.
Yeah, in sort of summary, it's a lot of single hits, bouncing down, and the edits were just Addictive Drummers. And just going and having fun, bouncing and bouncing, and then putting them in, and that's what we've got. So, the Reese then, that was obviously like a huge part of the original tune. The main hook, Reese. And it wasn't like a standard Reese, was it? It was kind of like, had a big notch out of it. It's, I don't know if I can find a way, it doesn't matter anyway. It's just like, it wasn't the kind of neuro Reese that we're used to now. So we wanted to kind of recreate it as best as we could. So what we used was, this is what we came up with. And it's out of FM8. So it's a really simple patch actually. If you haven't used FM8 before, it's all about this mod matrix on the right hand side here. Each of these blocks are basically, you can think of them as an oscillator, A, B, C, D, E and F. X is noise, Z is a filter. So we're not using the noise or the filter here. F, operator they call them. So the F operator, when it's got a line coming down the bottom there, that's the output, that's what you're hearing out your speakers. And the way it kind of works is, each operator will modulate whatever the arrow's going into. So this, you can think of this oscillator C is changing what oscillator E is doing. Oscillator D is changing what oscillator F is doing. So if you press the right button on these and turn them off, so this is just a single oscillator, and as you click on it, you can see you're talking to F up here, and then you've got your waveform, so you can change the sound there. If I turn on E, E is going to be modulating F, so you choose your different waveforms, and then you've got envelopes here. Turn on D and C, and this, a lot of it is sort of trial and error. And with Reese's, you can see up here the ratio 1, that's just a fixed pitch there for F, so the pitch isn't changing on F. If I go to 2, it's going to double the frequency of F, so it's like going up an octave. So if I turn on the other operators and click on them, see they're slightly detuned, so it's 1.03, this one's also 1.03, 1.06. This one here on the envelope as well, you can see as the sound starts, it waits for a bit, and then this one starts to come up, and that's it. You can kind of hear it, and it's higher pitch as well because it's not 1.06. If I drag this in, I don't know if you can hear that, but it starts low and then it comes up higher. So the Reese sound from FMA sounds pretty cool, but if I take the plugins off, if you look on the left here, there's a Camel Fat, Homicide, Dynamic Spectrum Mapper, Ensemble, which is just a stock plugin from Logic, EQ and a limiter. If I actually take these plugins off, it sounds pretty different. So that's what you're dealing with.
You hear that?
So you start off with a basic patch in FMA and then just start building up on it. Camel Fat is our sort of go-to distortion. So straight away, bandpass filter on the left here. We've just taken a little bit of the bass out and some of the tops. Like that. Distortion, the 4 types of distortion. We've got a bit of tube, load of exciter and some mech. This mech is really, really destructive. If you push that too much, it really crushes the sound. So that can either be amazing or sometimes it can completely ruin the sound. A bit of a filter going on, some compression, magic EQ, that's like supposed to be a kick EQ, so it's down at 84.6 Hertz, so it's just got a little bit on there. So you can hear what
Really brings it out.
really giving it the low, but it's made it quite muddy. Homicide, multi-band distortion. So you can see 1, 2, 3, 4 bands here going from low to high. In fact, I can solo each one. So that's the
bypass.
So there's the low band, low mids. That's actually the mids. That's the crispy top. And that's kind of sheen on the top. And so you can hear that's really brought out a lot more top end. And then you can change these knobs up here. They're the separation for the frequency. So if I turn that one up, this will be talking to more of the bottom end. If I move it down, it will talk to the less. And you can see here where it's split. So this is the frequency range going from low to high. And as you move these around, the band. And then within the band, you've got different distortion types and compressions and gates. And you just basically, like all plugins, you just start. Give yourself a bit of time with it and just move stuff around, see what the different knobs are doing, and then you've got the levels at the bottom as well. And then you end up somewhere that's pretty good, and then you move on to the next.
If you're just sort of starting out with FM8 and distortion, there's a lot of perseverance involved because with FM8, when you're setting up your operators, you're only ever a few rotations away from turning a good noise into a bad noise, and vice versa. And like as we showed you, the dynamics of the tune and of FM8 and the basses don't necessarily appear to be there until you start applying distortion and stuff. So it's definitely worth playing around for longer and just persevere because you will get something good.
A good tip as well, I think, is move sliders throughout their range, because sometimes they've got a real sweet spot and it's not always exactly clear where that is. So if you just go to start and then you find a good plate and you just go around and just do that with all the different controls, and then especially with filters and distortion amounts. The next plugin we had was the DSM Dynamic Spectrum Mapper. Now this is like it's a bit more of an unknown plugin, I think. We got this tip from Hybris, didn't we? And it's like a dynamic processor, but it really brings out the top end in things. If I take it off, and then it's the ratio and gain. These are really important controls on this. It's another one that can be too destructive. Okay, so that's your the DSM Ensemble. This is a Logic plugin. This is kind of like a sort of chorusy stereo processor. So this kind of softens it up a bit, and it really gives that wide chorusy ensemble effect. And then taking the lows out, because that's going to be where the sub bass is, and then the highs.
We always underline sub over our mids. You know, there's always pure sub, isn't there? That's a good trick.
With a mid, you just don't want too much sub, because you're always going to underlay, like you say, a sub underneath it to give it the power.
And then finally in the signal chain, we just use the UAD just to control the clipping again. Yeah, actually, so that's driven a bit more. It's driven,
isn't it, 3 dB.
That's all from us, Ulterior Motive and Computer Music. If you want to see the rest of the video, be sure to buy issue 206, available now.
Download over 30 exclusive plugins. Get hundreds of pro-quality samples and power up your production skills with in-depth tutorials. We break it down for you step by step, and you'll see exactly how it's done in expert video guides and producer masterclass sessions with pro producers. Get all this and more with Computer Music Magazine every month on iPad and iPhone, PC and Mac, Android, and in print.